Hi, Andrea Harper here, and by the end of this video, you will learn exactly how to prune and groom your own eyebrows right at home. Let's do it. Okay, first let's talk tools. You're going to obviously need a pair of tweezers. I really love these slant tips from Revlon because it allows you to grab one hair or multiple hairs. They are awesome. I have like 3 pairs. Next, I want you to get a teeny tiny little pair of scissors. You can obviously use a big pair of scissors, but these will allow you more control for getting rid of some of the longer hairs that are a little unruly. Next, grab a clean mascara spoolie. That's this little wand part on the end of our angled eyeliner brush. Grab one of those, or if you don't have one, you can use like a clean toothbrush or even your finger would work, but this is incredibly handy. And then last, grab some sort of a marking device for marking where everything should be. We'll go over that in a second. I'm going to be using our Red Apple eyeliner in Cocoa. A little tip here, if you have never plucked your eyebrows before or if you are super sensitive, grab yourself an ice pack or like a frozen bag of peas or something, and you can numb the areas that you're about to pluck the hairs from. And then, of course, get after it once the hairs come out to reduce any inflammation. Next, we're gonna make our markings. So what I like to do is grab my tweezers and clamp them shut, which kind of forms like a little bit of a parallel line. And then you're going to go parallel to the bridge of your nose. So you can almost kind of see this little indentation right here in your nostril, and just follow it straight up. And then wherever it lands parallel to the bridge, you're going to make a little mark. Obviously, this one still needs to do some growing in, but we're only going to pluck everything in between. Next is the arch, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky because some people have a little bit flatter eyebrows, some people have very pronounced arches, but this is the area of your eyebrow that you want to make sure you do right, because if you worry too much about the arch or you try to pluck too much toward the arch, then you can end up with those little tadpole looking eyebrows, right? With like the big inner and then it gets skinnier and skinnier. So this is why I really enjoy marking where the arch should be and where the ending should be and then going from there. So where you want your arch is essentially right underneath where the highest point of your eyebrow is. But that should be about 2/3 of the way into your eyebrow. Another way that I like to look at this, especially for women that have flatter eyebrows that don't have a defined arch necessarily, is taking like your measuring device and then looking at the outer part of your iris and then going up and marking that point. That is an excellent way to find the 2/3 of the way through and where typically a natural arch on most women that I talk to, where it lands. Now you're going to mark where your eyebrow should end. There is this imaginary line from the edge of your nose all the way up to the outer corner of your eye and all the way up to the edge of your eyebrow. We're going to use our measuring device, or our tweezers in this case, to mark that on both sides. Here's where I want to talk about wiry hairs, using those scissors, and if you have any really long hairs, this is the point in time that it will be very obvious. Take that mascara, spoolie, or toothbrush and just brush straight up, and you will notice any hairs that are a little bit too long, and you're going to snip down on a downward, so brush up, snip down on one hair at a time. And you really only want to do this from the arch point forward. You don't really want to do that in here because these little brow hairs are sparse and, we want to keep as many of them as possible. And most of the women that I see don't have the wiry, too long hairs in here. If you do, obviously handle them. But most of the wiry and unruly hairs that I see come in this front area. Next, I'm going to look at the top and the bottom, and I want to get those as close to in line as I can. Now, we all know that eyebrows are sisters, not twins, right? So I personally have eyebrows that are incredibly different from one another, and I've just come to the reconciliation that my eyebrows will never be the exact same, and I'm okay with that. It lends character to my face, and I hope that you feel the same way too. Taking anything that's straight, I'm choosing to use this little pencil instead. I'm going to line it up underneath, and then I'm going to pluck a few of the hairs on this side that don't line up with this side over here. Now the time has come to really start the plucking process. My favorite way to do this, and what I recommend to you also to avoid the too skinny eyebrow at the end, is to actually start at the end and start closest to your eyelid and work your way up toward your actual brow bone, all right? So we're gonna start on the ends and we're going to work our way toward the arch, and I will teach you how to do the arch when we get there. So start on the ends, work your way center. If you're new to plucking, try pulling the hairs with the grain of the hair itself. So pull it in the direction that it's already growing. I'm also going to encourage you not to use a zoom in magnification mirror. I know you might be tempted. I know you might actually need to get that close to see, but I would highly recommend just using a regular mirror, get it close to your face, and use it that way, because things that a magnifying mirror pick up might actually be necessary for the overall shape of the brow. So it's best to not get too close because you might overpluck. Now we're to the section where the arch begins, and this is where it's really crucial that we don't pluck too much, but I also find that this is an area that can be really sparse on a lot of people, myself included. So what I want us to do is start lower on the brow bone and work your way up to it, but when most of the hairs are starting, I want you to just stop. Even if it looks like, oh, but there's a lot of space in between that hair and the next, just leave it for now. And what you'll do is you'll fill in the rest of your brows later in the next video, and then you'll know for sure, do I need to pluck this hair? Is it too low, or can I leave it? And it helps with the whole structure of the entire brow. I want you to see how sparse this is so you can see where I'm not going to be plucking. Right in here, do you see how there's very few hairs? And I'm going to be filling that in later, so I don't want to pluck too much and make that arch super high, because then I will lose the base structure of my brow that I can fill in around, and it'll look much more natural than if I overpluck and then I have to fill that in with just powder or a pencil later. Now let's just pluck the inner section in between the middle. All right, the last little area to pluck is up underneath this front section right here. We're going to get any stray hairs, and then we're going to use our little eyeliner to just compare again and make sure that there's nothing that's too uneven that we couldn't balance out by raising one side or the other. Let's wipe off those little markings. They should just kind of wipe straight off if you're using one of our eyeliners, or kind of blend right in. I do want to address a question that I get a lot about eyebrows, and that is, what do I do with all the hairs up here? There's two things that you can do. The first thing is something called microblading. You can get a teeny tiny little microblader for yourself and just kind of shave the little fine peach fuzz hairs that are right there, and that will really help your eyebrows stand out a lot. The second thing that you can do is you can definitely pluck a few little hairs, especially if there's one that's like, you know, way up here and like obviously not a part of the structure of your eyebrows. I still recommend though that you fill in your eyebrows with brow powder, with a pencil, in the way that I'm going to show you in the next video. I still recommend you do that before plucking anything from the top. The reason for that is, some of these hairs up here look like they're out of place. They look really high, but I know when I go to fill in my eyebrows, I'm going to use that hair as the guide for the natural structure of what my brows are supposed to look like. And so if I went ahead and plucked those, then they wouldn't be there, and I would end up with a much skinnier brow and one that was not naturally there. And there you have it. Now you have groomed and pruned eyebrows. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and watching this eyebrow video. I hope it has helped you so much, and I can't wait to show you how to fill in your eyebrows and kind of complete this process in the next video. So make sure to go watch that one, and I'll see you there.